In the neon-lit sprawl of Asheville, North Carolina, where the Blue Ridge Mountains loom like silent sentinels under a star-flecked sky, I, Elise Warren, stand at 40, a battle-hardened commander in the unforgiving arena of personal finance. My name echoes through the financial corridors of the Blue Ridge region, a beacon forged from 2 decades of relentless ambition. From my humble beginnings as a data analyst in a modest Charlotte investment firm, I raised Warren Financial Partners from the ashes of obscurity, a fortress of fiscal strategy serving the titans of tech and healthcare. 3 years ago, our annual revenue breached the $1 million mark, a triumph that should have sparked pride. But to my family, I am no hero, no daughter revered. I am merely a walking vault, a resource to be tapped without gratitude. I am the middle child, caught in the crossfire of a family that wields favoritism like a weapon. My sister Clara Bennett is their radiant star, dubbed the sunshine of our clan, though she lingers in the shadow of a part-time teaching assistant role at a local community college, tethered to my mother's home in Gastonia. My younger brother, Ethan Parker, was cradled in indulgence, so spoiled he cannot even master the mundane task of laundering his own shirt. My parents, Robert and Linda Mason, regard my financial contributions as a birthright, an obligation I must fulfill without a whisper of thanks. Once, I believed that if I poured my heart into labor and gave without restraint, love would bloom like wildflowers after a storm. But after a decade of funding their every whim, bills, loans, emergencies with no hope of repayment, I glimpsed the truth through the haze of my own naivety. As a finance warrior, I wield precision like a blade, logging every transaction in a digital ledger not for reimbursement, but to mark the moment the draining began. At 30, I shouldered my parents' mortgage, $1,400 a month, wired faithfully for 2 years when my father's health faltered, leaving him grounded from work. Each call from my mother, Linda, crackled with a calculated blend of desperation and drama. "Elise," she'd plead, her voice trembling like a war drum, "if you don't help this month, I'll have to pawn my wedding ring to save the house." I sent the funds every time, my account bleeding silently, met not with gratitude, but with the next demand. Then came Ethan, my brother, a dreamer whose ventures crumbled like sandcastles under a merciless tide. First, $15,000 for an auto repair shop in Hickory, a venture that collapsed in 3 months, betrayed by unreliable allies. I said nothing, my silence a shield. Then, $9,500 for a digital content startup that flickered out in a mere 7 weeks. Undeterred, I loaned $22,000 for his coffee shop, a dream still brewing in Gastonia. Yet, I've never received an invitation to step through its doors. Clara, too, had her litany of needs: job losses, certifications, a reliable vehicle to navigate her uncertain path. I funded $8,200 for her teaching certificate, $13,000 for a used SUV, and $600 monthly to keep her afloat. 7 years later, afloat remains a distant mirage. Her wedding last year, a rustic spectacle near Hendersonville, cost me $18,000. No one asked if I could bear the weight. My mother's words were a cold edict. "You're the only one with money, Elise. It's expected." I once thought giving was my currency of worth, a way to etch my place in their hearts. But one evening, under the sterile glow of my Asheville office, I opened my ledger and the number seared my soul. 294,709 quints. That was the toll extracted by this so-called family over a decade. The pain wasn't the money. It was the deafening silence where care should have been. No one asked if I was okay, if I was whole. My birthdays passed unnoticed. My knee surgery recovery unvisited. My happiness unqueried. Their calls were a relentless barrage. Bills, repossessions, tuition, emergencies. But never once a "thank you" or a "we're proud." That night, staring at the cold digits of my spreadsheet, the truth struck like a plasma bolt. I was not their daughter. I was their credit line, a machine expected to give until it broke. In the cold, unyielding light of truth, I, Elise Warren, saw my place in the family for what it was, a ghost in their orbit, never truly a daughter, but a breathing credit chip, a limitless well they drained without a second thought. The favoritism I once mistook for neglect was no accident. It was a calculated system, a fortified bunker where Clara Bennett and Ethan Parker were exalted, while I was cast into shadow. As a child, I believed my parents, Robert and Linda Mason, were merely weary, their attention scattered like debris after a storm. But as years sharpened my vision, I saw the deliberate exclusion, their affection a currency lavished on my siblings, while my existence was a footnote unacknowledged. At 8, my birthday unfolded in the backyard of our Gastonia home, a meager affair marked by a clearance rack chocolate cake from a local grocer. 6 balloons, frayed and sagging, clung to a wooden fence. My only guests, a handful of neighborhood children I'd begged to attend. My mother, Linda, scrubbed dishes with mechanical indifference, while my father, Robert, slumbered in a lawn chair under the Carolina sun. No photos captured the moment, no song rang out, only my mother's curt reprimand. "You're lucky to have a party at all, Elise. Don't demand more." 3 months later, Clara's birthday erupted in splendor at a chic Italian bistro on Biltmore Avenue. 16 guests, a towering 2-tier cake from a renowned bakery, and gifts cascading across the table like spoils of victory. My father raised a glass of wine, his voice booming with pride. "No one deserves love more than our Clara." I was 10, sitting in Clara's hand-me-down dress, swallowing tears as his words erased me from the room. Ethan, the youngest, was my mother's final little miracle, a title that shielded him from consequence. When he stirred trouble at school, fights, skipped classes, Linda marched to the principal with a box of homemade cookies, her charm disarming any punishment. But when I earned a B in science for a misjudged project, my parents branded it a failure of focus, grounding me from television for a week. When Ethan was suspended for 3 days after breaking into the gym office, Linda dismissed it with a wave. "He's just spirited, not malicious." Robert nodded, his voice warm with indulgence. "Boys need a touch of wildness to grow." In 7th grade, I claimed first place in the district speech competition, my heart pounding on the podium as I scanned the crowd. No family faces met my gaze. Later, I learned Robert had taken Ethan to a state basketball game. "Those tickets were rare," he said, while Linda whisked Clara off to shop for prom dresses 2 months early. I studied with the precision of a soldier, always at the top of my class, my discipline unyielding. At my high school graduation, I was chosen to speak, my words echoing through the auditorium. My family's response? A tepid text. "Good job, keep it up." The true wound came when I received an offer from Duke University with a partial scholarship, a beacon of hope in my young heart. I raced downstairs to share the news with Linda, but she didn't lift her eyes from her phone. "That school's too far," she muttered. "Why not go to the University of North Carolina like Clara? It's cheaper, closer." I mentioned the financial aid, my voice trembling with excitement. She shrugged, dismissive. "Then sort out the rest yourself. We can't cover it all." That same summer, Robert dipped into his savings to buy Clara a gleaming Toyota Corolla for teaching jobs she hadn't yet secured, proclaiming her the hope of this family. Meanwhile, I scraped by on student loans and a part-time job at the campus library, once left with just $17, forced to choose between gas for my car or groceries for the week. Clara, unfazed, posted photos from a Santa Fe vacation my parents funded to help her unwind after her teaching exam. Ethan, having flunked his freshman year, was gifted a Gastonia apartment by my parents to find himself. When I dared question why I bore the family's burdens while they spoiled my siblings, they branded me difficult, my voice a disruption in their carefully curated hierarchy. In the sterile glow of my Asheville command center, the words of my father, Robert Mason, echoed like a distant artillery blast. "You've never needed anyone to tend your wounds, Elise. Why harbor bitterness toward those who do?" Bitterness? No. My heart wasn't poisoned. It was awakened, seeing with crystalline clarity that love in this family was a volatile asset, doled out like rations to those who stirred the most chaos. By 35, I had forged Warren Financial Partners into a titan and claimed my first condo in downtown Asheville, a sleek fortress with panoramic views of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I sent a hollow snap to the family's encrypted group channel, expecting a flicker of pride. Silence answered. Clara Bennett's lone reply came days later, her words slicing through the void. "Is the living room spacious enough for us to bunk during the holidays?" The truth hit like a plasma strike. My achievements were not their pride, but their resource, a vault to plunder. To halt my giving was to commit treason in their eyes. The favoritism I once thought confined to childhood had not faded. It had morphed, cloaking itself in subtler guises as I crossed into adulthood. At 32, I secured my first home in North Asheville, a 2-bedroom sanctuary with a balcony framing the jagged silhouette of the Blue Ridge peaks. Its kitchen, bathed in natural light, gleamed with granite counters and cherrywood cabinets, a dream carved from years of sacrifice. I shared a holo capture in the family channel, captioned, "A place to call my own." Linda Mason's reply, delayed by 2 days, was a single, dismissive, "Nice." Ethan Parker ignored it entirely. A week later, Clara sent a clapping emoji, adding, "Hope it's big enough for the kids and Blake to crash for the holidays." Less than a month passed before my parents' call pierced the quiet, their voices taut as warning sirens. "Elise, your father's hours were slashed," Linda said, her tone feigning casualty. "We're drowning in credit card debt. Could you help just a little?" I pressed for details. "Around $3,200 a month," she replied, "just until Robert stabilizes." Those months stretched into nearly 2 years. I shouldered their Gastonia mortgage, funded a roof repair, and covered the down payment for Robert's new car when his old one sputtered out. Clara's ambition to pursue a master's in educational counseling sparked another call, Linda's voice softer, manipulative as a covert operative. "She can't miss this chance just for lack of funds. It's $5,000 per semester. Don't sisters lift each other up?" I acquiesced, wiring $15,000 across 3 semesters. Clara never mentioned it again. No thanks. No repayment. Then came Ethan, forever teetering on the edge of triumph. Every 3 months, a new breakthrough venture demanded my credits. First, $12,000 for a custom athletic wear business in Hickory, a heat press machine, and a rented studio. 3 months later, the lease was terminated, the machine pawned to settle an electric bill. Next, an app to connect pet lovers. I refused. Linda's tear-soaked call followed, her voice a weapon. "Ethan's transformed, working tirelessly. How could you crush his spirit?" Guilt twisted my resolve, and I sent $9,500. The pain wasn't the lost credits. It was the erosion of my faith that I was doing right. Clara's wedding, a lavish autumn affair in Boone, unfolded amid crimson maple trees, with a live band, a vintage car, and a 3-course French dinner. As maid of honor and primary sponsor, I poured over $26,000 into the event, not counting the custom bridesmaid dress or the Vegas bachelorette trip I funded. Each expense was a silent plea for their recognition, answered only by their indifference. When I refused to fund a flight ticket for one of Clara Bennett's friends, she pulled me aside, her voice sharp as a laser's edge. "You don't understand friendship, Elise. Everyone thinks you're cold, no fun." I offered a faint smile, masking the ache within. Perhaps I seemed distant, juggling Warren Financial Partners through its first post-crisis year, a fledgling empire teetering on the brink while bankrolling a wedding for someone who forgot my birthday. The revelation burned brighter than a reactor core. I wasn't merely overlooked. I was systematically excluded from any flicker of emotional warmth. That Thanksgiving, while I sat alone in Asheville, I discovered the family had fled to New Orleans. Clara's hollow posts flaunted seafood feasts on a hotel balcony. Ethan's selfies glowed from the French Quarter's neon haze. I wasn't invited. My text to Linda Mason, probing why, met a dismissive reply. "You're always so busy, Elise. I figured you didn't care for such things." I read her words repeatedly, each syllable a fresh wound. Then I checked my bank statement. 2 days prior, a $7,800 charge had hit a credit chip I'd co-signed, payment for their Bourbon and Ivy hotel. authorized by Linda without a word to me. They needed my credits, not my presence. I was to fund their joy and vanish into the void. That night, in my stone-tiled Asheville kitchen, I uncorked a bottle of Merlot, its deep crimson reserved for a moment I'd hoped would be special. As I sat alone, the glass trembling in my hand, a question gnawed at my core. If I vanished from this world, would my family even notice? The answer came swiftly. They might, but only when the next bill went unpaid. Last February, as Asheville lay cloaked in winter's icy shroud, Linda called on a Monday morning, her voice syrupy, laced with a sweetness that felt like a trap. "Elise, your father and I are nearing our 40th anniversary. I want something extraordinary. Don't you think our family deserves a grand celebration?" I hesitated, the daughter in me clinging to a fragile hope of reconciliation. "What kind of place?" I asked. "Mountain Lake Lodge," she replied, her tone painting a vivid scene. "That resort in the southern Blue Ridge, with banquet halls overlooking a mirror-still lake, rustic elegance, perfect for Robert." She'd already spoken to the manager. "They need an $18,000 deposit to secure April 19th. I nearly choked. "That's no small sum, Mom." Her voice dipped, manipulative. "I know, but you're the only one who can afford it. Clara and Ethan are struggling, and, Elise, I don't ask much." I'd already cleared their Gastonia mortgage for 2 years, funded Clara's wedding, and bailed out Ethan's endless failures, yet in Linda's mind, this was merely what daughters do. I stared at my hollow screen, the numbers a stark reminder of my role. "Have the manager contact me," I said calmly. "I'll handle the deposit." 3 days later, an encrypted message from Mountain Lake Lodge confirmed me as the primary payer for the April 19th event. I wired $18,000 without negotiation, no conditions attached, a desperate bid for a place in their orbit. I sent a message to the family's secure channel. "Deposit for Mountain Lake is paid. Let me know how else I can help." Clara replied with a clapping emoji. Ethan ignored it, and Linda sent a curt, "Thanks. Now I can focus on planning." A spark of hope flickered. Maybe this time I'd be included, even in a small way, in the crafting of their celebration. 2 weeks later, I reached out to Linda Mason through the family's encrypted channel, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. "Do you need assistance with the guest list or menu for Mountain Lake Lodge?" Her reply was a dismissive wave, cloaked in false warmth. "No need, Elise. Focus on your work. You're always so busy." Undeterred, I pressed again. "Is the guest list ready? I'd like to dress appropriately." She offered a vague promise. "I'll send it soon, probably 50 to 60, family and close allies." But the list never arrived. Each inquiry was met with evasion or a deft change of subject. Clara Bennett chimed in, her tone breezy. "Maybe Mom wants it to be a surprise. Don't worry." A week before the event, I called Linda once more, desperation creeping into my voice. "What should I wear? Can I arrive early to help?" Her light chuckle crackled through the comms, chilling me. "Wear whatever you like. Just nothing too flashy." "I'm swamped. I'll call later." Her casual dismissal sent a shiver down my spine, but I clung to a fragile hope. I paid the deposit. Surely they wouldn't exclude me. That Friday afternoon, I scoured Asheville's elite boutiques for a gift, selecting a pair of limited edition Raymond Vi watches, their leather straps gleaming, dials engraved with Robert and Linda's names. The cost, $5,200 plus fees for the engraving and a custom walnut box, felt like a small price for a chance at their recognition. That evening, in my condo's softly lit command center, I wrapped the gift under a warm yellow glow, tying a silver ribbon with care. I attached a card, my handwriting steady. "Happy 40 years together, Elise." In that moment, I dared to believe they'd see me not as a walking vault, but as their daughter, a soldier in their ranks yearning for a place in their hearts. April 19th dawned over Asheville, a cruelly perfect day, the sky a crystalline expanse unmarred by clouds, sunlight filtering through blooming plum blossoms like a taunting hologram. I arrived at Mountain Lake Lodge at 4:30 p.m., 30 minutes early, my presence anchored by the $18,000 deposit I'd wired. I was the event's sponsor. My attendance in my mind was undeniable. I parked my sleek Lexus in the VIP sector, stepping out with the silver-wrapped gift box, its navy ribbon catching the sun's rays. My navy sheath dress, understated yet elegant, shimmered with crystal-studded heels. My hair was swept into a low bun, makeup applied with precision. 2 hours of preparation, all for one hope, to be seen as family, just once. The lodge matched Linda's description. A mirror-still lake framed by cascading string lights along stone walkways, a scene of rustic opulence. At the check-in station, I smiled at a staff member in a black blazer, her tablet glowing with the guest list. "I'm Elise Warren, here for Robert and Linda Mason's 40th anniversary." She tapped her screen, then froze, her expression faltering. "I'm sorry. Could you repeat your name?" I frowned, keeping my voice level. "Elise Warren, their daughter." A tense pause followed. She straightened, visibly uneasy. "I'm very sorry, but your name isn't on the guest list. There may be an error." My blood turned to ice. "I paid the deposit for this event. I have the confirmation from your management." Flustered, she summoned the event manager. As I waited, I peered through the tall glass doors into the banquet hall, where golden lights cast a warm glow. Clara stood by the wine table, laughing in a burgundy gown. Ethan lounged with friends, whiskey glass in hand, their ease a stark contrast to my isolation. Robert and Linda were nowhere in sight. Then the manager approached, a tall blonde in a beige suit, her name tag reading Megan, event director. Megan, the event director, fixed me with a sympathetic gaze, her voice steady but laced with unease. "Ms. Warren, I understand the confusion. You paid the $18,000 deposit, that's confirmed. But the final guest list authorized by your family excludes you." The words struck like a photon blast, stealing the air from my lungs. "I'm their daughter," I said, my voice trembling with disbelief. "I funded this entire celebration. How am I not invited?" Megan's eyes softened, but her tone held firm. "I can't override their directive. Would you like me to summon your family to discuss this?" I nodded, my fingers tightening around the silver-wrapped gift box until the paper crumpled under the strain. A silent testament to my fracturing hope. 5 minutes later, the heavy glass doors of Mountain Lake Lodge swung open. Robert Mason emerged first, his charcoal tuxedo and sharp black bow tie cutting a commanding figure, yet his face bore no trace of warmth. Linda followed, resplendent in a silver gown that shimmered like a distant star, but her expression was a cold void as she met my gaze. "Elise," Robert said, his voice devoid of affection. "What are you doing here?" I choked back a surge of disbelief. "Are you serious?" I asked, my voice cracking. "I came to celebrate. I paid for this." I lifted the gift box, my hands shaking, the navy ribbon glinting defiantly. Linda folded her arms, her face rigid, offering nothing. "We didn't expect you," she said, her tone icy. "You're always so busy." Robert glanced around, his voice dropping to a steely whisper. "This is a private affair, Elise. Not everyone belongs here. You should know that." My jaw fell, stunned by the dismissal. Linda turned away, her silence a sharper wound than any words. Robert gestured to the security detail behind him, his command unyielding. "Escort her off the premises. We don't want a scene." I whispered, barely audible. "Are you serious right now?" He stepped closer, his voice cutting like a blade. "What's unclear?" "We have no room for someone who shows up to mooch off others. Get this leech out of here." The word leech seared into my soul, rivaled only by the pain of Linda standing behind him, arms crossed, mute, as if I were a blemish on their perfect night. The security guard's hand brushed my elbow, polite but firm. "Ma'am, I need you to leave." I didn't cry, not yet. With measured steps, I walked past rows of lavender, their scent mocking my hollow heart, the gift box still clutched in my hands. As I slid into my Lexus, I slammed the door, refusing to glance in the rearview mirror at the family I once called mine. The drive home blurred into a fog, a distorted hollow feed through rain-streaked glass, the wind's howl drowning out the world. The gift box sat on the passenger seat, its silver tissue wrinkled, smeared with mascara from the tears that broke free as I passed the lodge's gates. Back in my Asheville apartment, the kitchen's soft light greeted me, a cruel contrast to my collapse. I kicked off my heels, let my purse fall, and sank at the foot of the stairs, my legs betraying me. I had hoped, tried, given them one last chance, only to be cast out like debris in a cosmic storm. All I received for my sacrifices were Linda Mason's evasive glances, Robert's words sharp as cryogenic steel, and a silent expulsion from the family I'd poured my life into sustaining. An hour later, my apartment's chime cut through the silence. It was Sophie Carter, my college confidant, the one beacon I could summon in this desolate hour. I didn't need to explain. A single transmission, "I need you here," brought her to my door. Sophie took one look at me, mascara streaked, dress crumpled, face drained as if sleep were a distant memory, and stepped forward, enveloping me in a wordless embrace. "Speak to me, Elise," she urged, her voice a lifeline. And I did, unspooling every wound, every word, every glance, every second of being cast out from the celebration I'd funded. When I recounted Robert's branding me a leech, Sophie's tone hardened to titanium. "This isn't favoritism anymore, Elise. This is abuse, humiliation." I nodded, my core still hollow, a void where hope once flickered. "Do you still have the transaction logs?" Sophie asked. I lifted my gaze, resolute. "I'm a finance operative. I archive everything." I activated my hollow laptop, accessing my personal expense matrix. A folder labeled Family Support glowed on the screen, its name a cruel irony for the exploitation it concealed. I summoned a report, sorted by year and recipient, and the total materialized, $312,806.52. Sophie let out a low whistle, her eyes wide. "Elise, that's 3 university educations, a starship's worth of credits, someone's entire future." I stared at the data streams. Ethan's car payments, Clara's tuition, roof repairs, the New Orleans excursion I was never invited to, the $18,000 for the anniversary gala, $5,200 for the untouched luxury watches, even trivial costs, a string quartet for Clara's wedding, floral arrays, airfare for her friend I'd never met. Sophie fell silent, then declared, "It's time to end this." Before I could respond, my comms buzzed. A bank alert. 3,650s for luxury transport charged to my card. I opened my banking interface. More charges followed. 2,800 for extra catering, 1,200 for premium wine, 450 for a mobile hollow booth. Even after ejecting me from their celebration, they pillaged my credits without pause. My hands gripped the chair's edge, trembling with suppressed fury. Sophie's hand rested on my shoulder, steadying me. "What's your next move?" I inhaled deeply. "I'm severing all ties." That night, until nearly 3 a.m., I fortified my financial defenses, resetting banking codes, purging Robert, Linda, and Ethan from authorized access, flagging suspicious charges, and locking all shared accounts. I compiled a meticulous dossier, every expense, recipient, date, purpose, backed by receipts, comms logs, and bank statements. I didn't yet know its purpose, but it was my proof. Evidence that my memories, my pain, were real. Then I drafted a transmission to all 3. Effective immediately, I cease all financial support. Credit chips, secondary accounts, and unused credit lines are terminated. Future charges will be deemed fraudulent. I am no longer this family's ATM. I sent it. Relief didn't come. Only a vast emptiness. But then, something shifted. I drew a full breath, unburdened, as if the chokehold of years had finally loosened. By morning, before my coffee cooled, my comms erupted. Linda called, Clara called, Ethan left 3 missed pings and 2 all-caps messages. I set the mug down, ignoring the relentless alerts, their clamor like a war siren I'd long anticipated. Less than an hour later, my apartment's chime rang, urgent and unyielding. Through the hallway's reinforced glass, I saw Linda, face flushed, clutching her bag as if fresh from a battlefield. Robert stood behind, rigid as a sentinel. Clara lingered, arms crossed, eyes blazing with feigned betrayal. I opened the door. "Elise, what is this about?" Linda demanded, bypassing civility. I stepped aside, letting them enter, bracing for the storm I knew was coming. Robert Mason strode into my Asheville apartment's living quarters as if he owned the sector, his presence a silent claim of authority. Clara Bennett trailed behind, her cold aura dragging tension like a grav field in her wake. "You canceled everything," she snapped, her voice cutting through the air. "Disneyland, Jack's tuition, even Mom's joint account, frozen." I stood unshaken, my tone steady as a targeting laser. "Correct. And that's only the beginning." I moved to the dining console, where a stack of printed data sheets awaited, compiled in the sleepless hours of the previous night. Each page was meticulously numbered, cataloging recipient, date, amount, purpose, and status, with a final column of handwritten notes. Not repaid, unauthorized, no notice used without consent. I slid the dossier toward them. "This is every credit I've expended over the past 11 years. 312,816.52, excluding interest or lost opportunities." Robert lifted a sheet, his eyebrow arching with disdain. "What's the purpose of this?" "To remind you I'm not an endless credit vault," I replied, my voice calm but unyielding. Linda winced, her face contorting. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Elise. This is family. We support each other." I raised an eyebrow, my gaze piercing. "Support? Name one instance in the last decade when anyone checked if I was okay, if I was more than a credit dispenser." Clara leaped in, her words sharp as shrapnel. "You've always loved control, haven't you? This is about power, and now you're twisting it against us." I met her stare, unflinching. "Control? I didn't control. I rescued. Your wedding, Clara, I funded. Your master's degree, I paid for. I never demanded repayment or gratitude. And my reward? A silent expulsion from a family celebration." Robert slammed the page down, his voice a low growl. "Stop playing the victim, Elise. You knew what you were doing. If you didn't want to give, you wouldn't have. Now you're throwing it in our faces." I drew a slow breath, my words deliberate, cutting through the haze. For 10 years, I held my tongue, patient, hoping my sacrifices would earn me a place in your hearts. Instead, I faced systemic exploitation. That's not love. That's financial abuse. The room fell silent, a void as heavy as a black hole. Linda froze, her eyes wide. Clara stared, stunned. Robert scoffed, but a flicker of alarm betrayed his gaze. I pressed on, resolute. "Effective immediately, there will be no more joint accounts, no loans, no bill payments. I will cover no expenses, medical, educational, or otherwise. All future requests for funds are denied." Clara shot to her feet, her voice a shrill accusation. "You're cutting us off? Who do you think you are?" I stood taller. "I'm the last one in this family who still knows what boundaries mean." Robert rose, his face crimson with fury. "This family raised you, Elise, and now you abandon us." I locked eyes with him, fear long banished. Family doesn't crush someone for their success. Family doesn't brand their daughter a leech and siphon her credits behind her back. If this is the cost of being a Warren, I've paid it in full. I opened the door, my gesture final. "You can leave now. I owe no explanations, and I owe you nothing." Robert paused at the threshold, his final glare laced with venom. "You'll regret this." I offered no reply, only a faint smile, and sealed the door. The soft, resolute click of the lock echoed like a victory signal. I expected relief to flood in, but the aftermath was slower. A fever breaking, chills fading, emptiness giving way to a quiet calm. 3 days later, I cleared the filing archives in my home command center, purging the remnants of a past I no longer served. In the quiet of my Asheville command center, I gathered every printed bill, every receipt, every sub-account ledger, sealing them in a reinforced crate labeled closed. I didn't incinerate or shred them, not out of spite, but as a monument to the Elise Warren who once believed familial love could be purchased with sacrifice. The following weekend, a peculiar transmission arrived. Not a digital pulse, but a physical letter, its cream-colored envelope bearing precise, elegant script. In the corner, Catherine Brooks, Attorney at law from a firm in Brevard, an hour's journey from Asheville. Unfamiliar. I frowned, slicing open the envelope to reveal a folded parchment and a bank statement. The header read, "Final wishes of Margaret Ellis. A trust account held for 6 years awaited me." I sank into my chair, my breath catching. Margaret Ellis, my grandmother, Linda's mother, was the only soul in our clan who ever felt like a safe harbor. She passed when I was 34, during a winter that bit harder than most. At her funeral, Linda forbade my eulogy, claiming it would seem odd. My hands trembled as I unfolded the statement. 187,000, swelled by 6 years of accrued interest. A handwritten note, its paper yellowed by time, accompanied it. "My dearest Elise," it began, "I've long seen the love you're denied in this family." I never spoke for fear of fracturing it further. "I set aside this fund, entrusted to Catherine, to be released when you find the courage to live by your truth. If you read this, you've conquered the hardest battle, standing alone." Tears fell silently, staining the paper's edge as I read, my heart gripped by her quiet faith in me. Clutching those credits, I didn't dream of interstellar voyages or lavish purchases. Instead, I founded the Ellis Foundation for Empowered Youth, a beacon for those cast out by their kin, especially those ensnared by financial manipulation or denied education due to family dysfunction. I assembled a cadre of legal and financial operatives to structure the program, ensuring others like me, those seen as endless wells obligated to give, knew they deserved a fresh trajectory. Simultaneously, I widened my orbit. Sophie Carter remained my steadfast ally, but I welcomed others. Emily Foster, my former assistant, a single mother balancing academia and labor. James Riley, a chef who fled home at 16 to escape prejudice. And Lily Morgan, a distant cousin who sent a covert message after the Mountain Lake Lodge incident. I saw it all, Elise. I stand with you. Each month, I opened my Asheville stronghold to my new allies, Sophie Carter, Emily Foster, James Riley, and Lily Morgan, for dinners filled with warmth. No one demanded credits, no one grumbled, no one pressed. "Why won't you aid me?" Only laughter echoed, stories wove through the air, and James's barbecue vanished first, a testament to his culinary mastery. That Christmas, no transmissions arrived from Robert, Linda, Clara Bennett, or Ethan Parker. I sent none in return. Instead, I adorned my door with a woven wreath, baked gingerbread cookies that filled the air with spice, and pinned 12 heartfelt cards for my chosen circle, not out of duty, but from a deep well of gratitude. A singular truth crystallized within me. Healing doesn't require forgiving those who wounded you. It demands a pivot, a turning away, to forge a new stronghold with bricks you've claimed yourself. I am no longer the daughter of the Mason clan. I am Elise Warren, the commander who chose herself, standing unyielding in the orbit of my own life, requiring no one's clearance to exist fully. My journey is a stark beacon. Family bonds must never be forged on unconditional sacrifice or silent endurance. Across the cosmos, countless souls remain trapped in toxic kinships, where love is bartered for credits and duty twisted into a lifelong burden. Setting boundaries isn't betrayal, it's the first salvo in defending your worth. True family isn't the cradle of your birth, it's those who honor the core of who you are. What are your thoughts on Elise's stand? Would you have charted a different course in her place? Share your reflections in the Hollow forum below, and stay locked into this channel for more sagas of kinship, boundaries, and liberation.